You know when people like do something and it upsets other people and then they apologize, but the apology is so half-assed that the apology is actually worse than the thing that they actually did. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure it's happened to you before, right? Gosh, I had see, one of the things that assholes do is they crap out a shitty apology. Yeah. And I was on the receiving end of this ass and shitty apology all over my face recently. And just to sort of lay it out, right? You know, this thing happened. It triggered a lot of my issues, right? Let's be clear, right? Like, I don't think the thing they did was, extremely wrong, but it triggered a lot of shit in my head that made me feel very, very sick. And I told them that, and there's no easy way to tell people, right? Like, that what they did upset you, right? Because most people who aren't emotionally mature enough to handle that shit, they get defensive because they feel like that's a direct attack on their character. And if they don't have their character, who are they? What are they? Right? So most people, instead of going, oh, like, maybe I did something wrong and introspect, they shut it off and go, I'm the good guy, fuck you. Right? Or in this case, it was a shitty apology. And God, the shitty apology, things like, hey, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry, that me trying to help you upset you, or like me trying to make you laugh upset you, right? Or like, the very condescending, like, it's phrased in a way where it's like, your emotions are invalid. Why would you be upset, right? At this very clearly written out thing that I just had, right? That basically justifies my actions against how you're feeling. In gift wrapped in an apology box, and the reason that's worse, a shitty apology is worse than the actual thing, is like, the original thing could just be, someone's saying something careless, right, or honestly, it was just an issue that I had, so I didn't really blame them for it, but when that shitty apology flew into my face, it told me about this person's character. Like what I said before, right? Like the defensiveness, the lack of introspection, the insecurity, right? The and all that just to get to lack of empathy, because an empathetic person wouldn't give a shitty apology, right? An empathetic person would consider how the other person feels and not try to defend themselves right off the bat. And an empathetic person wouldn't give a shitty apology that makes the person feel worse because, they're empathetic. They're not set out to do that. And they're aware. That's the most important part. Like, a lot of the emotional maturity is just being aware and, like, even having a reason to think about how other people feel first. I'm preaching all the shit. I'm guilty of not doing all of these things, of being like I'm way worse than this other person is, by the way, that I'm talking about. So let's just be clear about that. But yeah, no. So the point of this whole story is it made me realize, me being a very terribly unempathetic person, right? Like, I couldn't fathom putting myself in somebody else's shoes. I couldn't fathom imagining how somebody else feels or how what I say makes somebody else feels. But in that moment where I was on, the back end, the rear end of their shitty apology, I was like, oh, honestly, it made me rethink all the shitty apologies that I made. Because I made so many, I can't count. There's so many shitty apologies. Like, that's my go-to. Like, that's how bad it is. Like, whenever I apologize, my go-to is a shitty apology. Like, it is not apologizing for what I did, but it's pointing out how stupid they are for feeling the way they feel. So, terrible person. But for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, so that's, maybe I'm starting to get it. So I went back. I have a long list of people I need to apologize for giving a shitty apology to. So I have a lot of work to do. I've only just started actually apologizing. You live and you learn.